Albert Karschnia, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good, man. We just got into Houston probably 45 minutes ago, so
You got a
ready
pretty big
to
game
ready to
coming up,
rock.
huh?
Yeah, you know, never know how many opportunities you get at a national title appearance, so got to make the most of them.
Well, I'm super excited for you. So, for those that don't know, Albert, you tell everyone your position on the Michigan football staff, and you literally just landed in Houston. Um, you know, Handful of days away from kicking off the national championship. By the way, thank you so much for carving time out in a probably insane schedule to
Yeah.
hop on do the
Oh,
interview.
shoot. Absolutely. So I'm the director of recruiting with the Michigan football program. This is finishing my second season in that role. Was here previously after I graduated from 2015 through the summer of 2017 as a recruiting assistant. Went to Central Michigan for 5 seasons as their player personnel director, and then got the call to come back to Ann Arbor December of 2021.
So
So
we're
it's been a
we're gonna we're
been a good
gonna
ride.
we're going to walk through all your steps along the way. But before we get into that, for someone that's, likes football, is into football, but doesn't have a clue, like director of recruiting operations, what does that mean to the average person? How would you explain what you do day to day?
Yeah, so I oversee all of the recruiting efforts for the team. So that's, you know, daily, hourly conversations with the coaching staff, with players across the country, high school coaches, trainers, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, you name it. Anybody that has involvement with a potential recruit and is helping them with their decision making and everything like that. But it's kind of running mission control a lot of times too when the coaches are on the road. They're we're building their schedules. They're going out to see kids. They're calling back with notes. We're helping them get their travel booked. We're getting appointments set up, helping them, uh, you know, kind of guide them. Hey, they're going to see this one kid in a certain area. Is there anybody else here that I should be going to see? Everything there. So it really is. It's a team effort. It's all super collaborative, which is really enjoyable. Um, and then obviously on campus when we get kids to visits, have a big role there, and just helping to organize the visit, make sure it's a great experience for everybody that steps foot on our campus.
And I've seen you in action. I've seen what you do, and I've known you. I mean, I don't over a decade at this point.
Yeah,
But in terms of recruiting, you're meeting a ton of people, and I know how important it is for first impressions and interacting with people. On a base level, how do you remember everyone's names? Because I've you don't mess up. Like you're on point and you're deal.
yeah. So I mean, we do like when they're on campus. I mean, we do give them big name tags, So that is, and that's, I mean, that's everywhere across the country. And there are times though where you're like, man, I've seen this guy at least twice, 3 times before, and is it Derek? Is it Darius? Like what is it? And but you always try to you know just help, like we do face sheets, so like before the kids are on campus we'll put a headshot roster pretty much together of the kids that are coming into the building, their family members names and everything like that that's coming with them, so you try to study that as best you can. And uh you
How
know
deep does that go? When you have a 5-star recruit coming, like, do you know everyone that's coming with them? And like, is there a certain pecking order of, okay, hey, look, we cannot mess up these names or these interactions, or how in depth do you get like before they
yeah
get on
yeah
to you?
yeah I mean, we try to know, as best we can, everybody that's coming uh, with a kid that's coming onto our campus, just because that allows us to be prepared and to just put our best foot forward. But yeah, there's things like every recruitment is its own unique challenge. There's things that are important to some families that aren't important to others that you know, and that all play, that's all the role of like our staff, the coaching staff, of getting to know them at a a deeper level than just, hey, did you see our game this past weekend? Uh, which obviously on field success helps, but you got to make people feel like they're a priority, and that's I think the biggest thing, and I think that's something that we as a program do really well. Is the kids, by the time they enroll here, they already feel like they're a part of it, and um, you know had a great signing day a couple weeks ago, and like that class, like just incredibly like close knit already, and like they haven't even started really yet.
So you mentioned on-field success, and right now you're in Houston, days away from the national championship game. First off, what is that environment like? Very few people that have coached for a very long time even have a chance to experience like a fraction of the success you've been a part of. What is it like down there? Like, does it feel different, or is it like, are you guys trying to keep it as same as
Yeah, it's
possible?
been I mean, obviously the travel the past couple weeks has been different. And the turnaround from the Rose Bowl was like really, I mean, really quick. Like we finished that game, and hour later, after like media wrapped up, hour later, like we're at the airport, boarding a flight. We landed back in Detroit probably like 5:30 in the morning on Tuesday, and so then it was. I mean, a lot of the coaches like didn't even go home. They just got off the bus back at the facility and got right to it. So
Were you watching the game on the plane? Were you watching your game? You watched the Washington game?
we were the Washington game ended like right as we were taking off. So like
Okay.
everybody had it on their phones, but it's funny because you can hear like the entire plane like reacting to stuff, and so those are always coming back from the road games in general, and just like watching the road games like is always like an enjoyable like little time because you can kind of gives you an opportunity to like take a breath and just enjoy the sport for what it is.
Yeah, and speaking of taking a breath, I mean, ending of the Rose Bowl, as a fan, as a football fan, the endings doesn't get any better than that in terms of it comes out last
Yeah, I
play for you
mean,
on the sidelines. I mean, what was that experience like, and then how much time did you and the team get to enjoy it?
I would say by the time we had landed, everybody had kind of like turned the page mentally on it because we know that there's obviously a bigger prize waiting for us in a few days if we take care of business. So um, I think though, like after Monday, everybody within the program that was a part of that game will remember that for the rest of their lives as arguably like one of the best experiences they've ever been a part of. Like no matter where you go, like it really doesn't get any bigger than Michigan Alabama in overtime at the Rose Bowl. Like I don't know how you can get bigger than that. And just to like even be a part of it was incredible. And like I've kind of looked like, you know, you're just like scrolling through like Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and realizing that like, kids like JJ or Blake, Mike Sainer still, Will Johnson, like the photos of them are going to be like, that like iconic Charles Woodson like picture with the rose, and it's like 20 years from now, like those are going to be the photos still. It's like it's like I think everyone felt the weight of it, like of how impactful that game was pretty quickly, but we haven't really had time to like truly dwell on it and necessarily like appreciate it yet.
Yeah, and in your position, like so right now, like all eyes are on you guys in Washington, and that's even from the recruiting standpoint. So how do you change gears from taking a second to take it all in, confetti's everywhere, to now like how are you able to leverage this now in recruiting in this like you're gonna have a long window whether you win or lose. Hey, we made it to the national title, but this window right now, it's like
Yeah,
I
it's
mean it's
huge.
white hot. Yeah,
It's huge, and I think you know, and the other, the other piece of it too. It's like you need to like capitalize on it, but like also, you know, the coaches are, they're game planning. Like you've been in those weeks where it's like it's a huge game,
they
and
don't want to talk
yeah,
to
like
recruits.
I'm like, hey, like but what and the crazy thing is like the portal's like going on right now. Like thankfully, like high school class is pretty much wrapped up. Like we're on to 25, the 25 and younger classes now. But like the portal's open, and so there's a lot of kids that are taking visits. Like this week right now is open for kids in the portal to take visits. And so you got people calling and stuff, and hey, when do you guys leave for Houston? We want to get up there. And you're like, yeah, we're already here, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you want to,
Like
like,
it's
we can get on FaceTime and walk you through the building next week. But there's it's like that balance of you know and for me it's easy for us in the recruiting department. Like obviously we're here, we're doing everything we can to support the team right now, and like on the road trips, especially like bowl trips, it's there's no like recruiting or you know ops or whatever. Like everybody's just like your help. Like if you can help, like you're carrying coolers, you're pushing trunks, like doing whatever it takes to help the team out. But obviously, like our recruiting department is making contact and like upping our communication with kids, just to kind of fill that void that you know some of the coaches are obviously a little busier than they usually would be, and every other school in America is like able to just focus on recruiting right now. We're us in Washington are fortunate that we've got a game still to play, and
yeah.
we
I would
haven't
imagine as
closed
a recruit,
closed the book yet.
if you're getting a call right now from anyone involved in the Michigan football staff, it's a bit like they're telling people it's a big deal because there's
Yeah.
only so many hours of preparation in the day for you to make that call, or
Yep.
answer that call. But you bring up an interesting. You brought up the portal, and I know you've been involved in college football since 2015, so you were around before, and now
Yep.
like not now that it's here. Can you explain how that works to someone on the outside? Like we hear the portal, and what is the portal, and what does it look like, and how does it work?
Yeah. So prior to the transfer portal, which obviously is like a huge buzzword now in college football, but players that were on scholarship would have to get a release letter from their scholarship signed by the head coach, um, submit that, and then they could
and
like
and typically, like in your experience, when a scholarship player goes to the head coach, how does that conversation go? Because it's not always a guaranteed. Yeah, hey, go have fun, right?
no,
Yeah,
no, it's not. No, and there's stories and instances of times where like the coach wouldn't sign that letter. None that I had ever seen or been a part of, but you hear stuff, and obviously stuff gets reported. But the the other piece of it though was like it was very difficult to know when or if a kid got that letter, and so it was basically the responsibility of the kid, uh, the player, to provide the letter to the school, or the schools that he was interested in potentially transferring to, and it was just a really like there's a lot of room for error in that
So you would get a
process.
call. You would get a call from a kid wanting to transfer to Michigan or wherever, and you'd want the
Sure.
kid, but you don't know if he actually has a
Yeah.
letter or not.
Yeah, and so you got to, hey, I need to see the release letter before we can talk, um, and everything there, and and then usually somebody, then you're trying to call their compliance department, get it faxed or emailed to you. Um, Kids like sending you pictures on his phone, like you don't know, like shoot, he might have just like made this thing in his dorm room.
Yeah.
You don't have any clue necessarily, and so
And
what
if
the
you speak back in the day, if you talk to him without the letter, then I mean,
yeah,
there
so
could be an issue.
technically a violation, yeah. So, and at the time it was like a lower level violation because they knew that things like that happened. And so what happened, what the NCAA did was they created this transfer portal that was intended to kind of solve two issues. The first being uh, the student athlete no longer has to get the sign off from the head coach to go transfer.
That's a
And
huge deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they're most of the time like you kind of know if a kid's like gonna leave, but there's really there unless the kid like tells you, like there's really no obligation for them to tell you. They can go straight to the compliance office and
At
fill
any
out the
time.
at any well so that yeah so that's like a newer wrinkle as well, but essentially like during the transfer windows they can go to the compliance office and fill this notification of transfer form out, and then we get like an email from compliance saying, hey, John Smith is entering his name into the transfer portal. And like sometimes sometimes you don't.
So when you say transfer window, roughly, like you don't have to get it down to a T, but when are the transfer windows?
Yeah, so there's as it stands right now, there's a winter window and a spring window. So there's a 30-day window in the winter that
Mm-hmm.
started, I want to say the Monday after conference championship weekend,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even the Friday before it.
But
And
around.
then it closed on the second, except like there's exceptions for like if you played uh, a bowl game or something, you have 5 days after your bowl game. So, you'll see like guys that were in the CFP semifinals, they still have like another day that they could go into the portal because of that kind of exception to it. The other window is like a 15-day window that'll take place in the spring, in like the middle of April.
And are those
Toward
windows like mad, like
Yeah,
madness and
it's
chaos?
madness.
Because I
It's
imagine
chaos,
you're
and
getting emails of like, "Hey, I just saw a kid in the hallway," and then you get buzzed. He's transferred.
yeah,
Probably vice versa.
you got no idea. We've been really fortunate here, um, that we haven't had too many kids hit the portal. Like it's been great just for the locker room and continuity and everything like that. I think it's a big reason why we've had the success that we've had. But yeah, and then like grad transfers, like there's a little bit different set of rules for grad transfers on when, they've got more flexibility on when they can go in, um, from a time standpoint. But yeah, like really, like you get into, and then there's also if your head coach is changes, so if they're fired, if they take a new job, you have a 30-day window after that,
Okay.
uh, to get in. So like as schools were making coaching changes in like early November, like that's kind of when the portal started for this fall, was kids jumping in from schools that were letting their head coaches go at the start of the November cycle. There was like a period, you know, in the summer, like Northwestern had that coaching change, like they're like in July. So like, they like did an incredible job this season of keeping that thing together. But like their kids technically could have gone in the portal from like you know July 15th all the way through August. So like and
and
like
then
you
be eligible
like I
instantly.
said, like you have no
Yeah.
yeah, instantly, and you like have no control. You know what I mean? Like you have like really no control over it other than trying to recruit your own players back. And that's something that you talk about, like recruiting high school kids, recruiting kids that are in the portal. Now colleges are forced to try to recruit their own kids back. Like you're always like working to you know protect your own and keep the you know keep the guys in your locker room in there.
From an operational standpoint, you said this like magic buzzword, the portal. Is it like a website and you can say, hey, look, I need a D tackle. Like, here's all the D tackles, or how? No.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is, like, I think that's kind of like the perception of it is
Yeah.
like, oh, it's this huge just like football database, and it really it only gives you like the name, the school, and the sport, and like the day they went in, and that's like it. There's no like, I mean, there's not stats. There's nothing, and there's now like there's companies that have softwares that can help you like kind of player match just to like save you. But like in the beginning, it was like you had no clue. Like you're just like
Just a
scrolling
list.
through this. You're just scrolling through this thing, and it's like, oh, here's a guy from whatever school, and you like search him, and you're like, I can't even find him on the roster, and like this guy's like never played a snap, and then like he's directly underneath somebody above him that was like two-time All-American quarterback, and you're like, and like there's no difference. Like it's literally just name, school, sport, and date of entry into the portal, and then like if they're a grad transfer or not. Like that's like all you get.
And then can you like click a button and say, hey, we're interested? Is there contact information, or
Yeah,
how do you?
they don't even put contact it. Like there's like an email. There's like usually like the kid's like student email. That's like it. So you gotta like try to get them on like social media. A lot of the good thing now, it's like so many of these kids that are in college now have been within the past like 5 to 7 years, like the high school recruiting databases have grown so much that you still have kind of like archived data of like phone numbers and stuff from like
uh,
when
Rivals or
kids
whatever?
the class, well,
Yeah.
like hey, like your recruiting database from like the class of 20, like class of 2020 or 21, and so then you're like going back you know through your archives and like, hey, do we have this kid's phone number, or how do we get a hold of this kid, do we got a parent info, anything like that.
And what's been your directive, or how have you approached the portal? Is it because it sounds like you guys have done a great job recruiting high school kids that fit your program, that stay in place, but also here's this like side pocket. Is it
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you balance that? And
I think this past year was really like my first cycle really doing it in full when when I had first gotten there in end of December in 21. I was I was getting my feet wet, kind of like everything transfer wise had already started. It wasn't all finalized, but they kind of had who they were going after already scoped out. Um, we brought in 9 or 10 before this current season, and I mean every single one of them has been like exactly like what you could hope for, and in a lot
which
of
is
cases
which is
even
what?
even just kids that came in that obviously they're looking for some improvement of their, their own abilities, their, whether it's draft stock or playing time or whatever. But every one of them that came in bought into the team and the team goals. And we came into this season, in the off season, this, almost a year ago now, like, hey, like if we don't finish this season in Houston, like this is a we didn't do our job. Like this team needs to go be competing for a national championship. And it isn't always easy for a guy that knows he's only going to be there for 10 months to like try to ingrain himself into the fabric and the culture of the program, especially when it's such there was so many like veteran leaders, veteran starters returning. And um I just think every single one of them, you go down the list, like guys that have bought in, have gotten better. You go out to like you talk to them now, it feels like they've been here their entire career. Um, and it's like it's a testament to them and you know, their desire to really want to contribute to something bigger than themselves. And it's a testament to our locker room to, you know, not being like clicky, not being, oh, who are these guys coming in? Like, hey, if you're going to come in here and work and want to help us win, like, cool, you're with us.
But also it's a testament to you guys and what you guys do on the staff because how do you I'm sure you said you took 9 or 10 portal guys. I'm sure
Yeah,
more than 9 or 10 wanted to come. So what are
yeah.
some things that you look for helped identify like hey this is something we're looking for as a good fit and this was I saw this coach, I don't think he's a good fit.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what
you
are some
do.
of
I
those
mean,
things that you see?
yeah, you do your homework, and some of them. I mean, I want to say we had out of that group, five of them were team captains at their previous stop. Um, so like right off the bat, there, hey, like you think this guy's at least, above 50% as far as like you know, the character piece of it. Um, but you talk to people. You if you know coach, a lot of our you have everybody in college football knows everybody, and usually you can reach out. And now those aren't always like the easiest conversations because you're like
Like, hey,
calling
we got
you're
your
you're
cap, your
calling your
captain
you're
wants to
calling
come
your
in.
you're calling your yeah you're calling your buddy and being like, hey, how is this kid for you? We love him, and they're like, yeah, we did. We did too. And so like those aren't always the easiest conversations to have, but like when you have those conversations and people are still saying great things about the kid, like you feel pretty good about it. You read up on them. We talk to the scouts too, like NFL scouts, like because they go through these schools and you know they get character background stuff on these guys and um, you try to dig up info however you can. But when you look at the team this year, like we're not the same team without the transfer guys that we brought in, and I think it's always going to be our mission is always going to be to bring the right type of fit in number one, first and foremost, because the locker room that we have is in such a special place right now where we don't have to, the staff doesn't have to be super overbearing and, you know, tense and tight to like get the best, get the best version of these kids. They're super driven, they're super motivated, self starters, like, and they really do a great job of like, running the team, you know, and it's like I said, like these transfer guys have bought in. They've been, they've come up and made huge plays. You watch the last play of that Rose Bowl. Josiah Stewart, number 5, pushes, the right tackle right back into the quarterback, and he was at Coastal Carolina last fall, but went into the portal, and we get a call from Mikey Sainer who's our, captain, starting nickel number 0, who's like one of the best kids, any of us have ever been around. And when Josiah went in the portal, Mikey called. He's like, "Hey, we got to go get this dude." They were high school teammates,
Mm.
and so like we're like, then it was like, okay, Mikey's saying like, bring this guy in. Like, yeah, let's go get this guy. But there's examples of it across the board. Ladarius Henderson, Drake Nugent, Ernest Hausman, like Josh Wallace was at UMass. He was a 3-time captain at UMass, which is, if you're a true sophomore getting voted as a team captain by your teammates, like that speaks really highly of you. I don't care like what level of football you're at. And he came in the summer, and his games just elevated immensely week to week, and played an unbelievable game this past weekend. Made big tackle at the 3-yard line to set up that fourth down. And so like it's been so much fun to watch them because they've gone, all in. They've really like dove in head first to this team, and like watching them have the time of their lives this season is so rewarding, and it just like it feels great that to even play a small role in helping to put the pieces together.
That's what I was going to ask is from your perspective, when you see like you take a guy from, a smaller school, right? You're talking UMass, you're talking Coastal Carolina, bring him into the fold of big time, Power 5 football at a huge stage, and you see these kids flourish, and you have a role in that. How does that, at what point does that hit you and be like, hey, like that's pretty cool that I made that happen? And how does that feel for you as a recruit?
Yeah, it feels good to, you know, I think it feels good that it shows that our processes are sound, right? And ultimately, I'm not playing one snap for these guys. I'm not the one coaching them. I'm not in the weight room with, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so like it really is like it's a very very small role in it, but you know, being able to be here, having worked now, 2 separate times for Coach Harbaugh, like, I feel like I have a really good feel for what he looks for in players, what type of players are going to succeed here, and so, and I think our coaching staff, you know, represents that as well. Like every one of them, all of us, we take after his lead, and he's a thermostat. He sets the temperature for the whole building, and you know we go execute it through his vision. So it's been really cool to see the cohesion of everybody.
If you were to describe um, Coach Harbaugh to someone who has no idea, like, from the outside, and you only see clips and this and that, like, you don't know,
Yeah,
it's an enigma, but, how would you describe him to someone, from the inside out?
yeah. Super genuine, very genuine person. Um, he is who he is all the time. He's one of the most consistent people that I've ever been around. He really doesn't like take a day off uh, from being Coach Harbaugh, and it's really impressive to see that. Like there's never don't think I've ever like seen the guys like tank on empty. You know what I mean? Like he's
Mhm.
always like fired up. He loves coming into work every day and working, and like one of the best one of the best player coaches um, that any football player could ever want to play for. And you see him, like you see how the guys respond to him, and part of that is he is he's in a unique position where he has played exactly where they're playing. He's played at the next level, at a very high level for a long time. He's been coaching here now since 2015, but has had success at every stop along the way um, during his coaching, like even back to like when he was, volunteering in the off seasons with his dad at Western Kentucky and kind of like getting his feet wet in the coaching profession. Like the guys that he was recruiting there, the year he's with the Raiders, they go to the Super Bowl against the Bucks. He goes to San Diego, like they win there. Stanford, they win there. The Niners, they win there. Like he just wins. Like there's very few people that have the track record of success that he has, and that consistency is such a huge part of it. And I think you know he truly wants the best for all the guys in his locker room, and he's not one of the like I think there's like coaches that will be like recruiting head coaches, and they'll like focus more of their time and effort on looking to the future and trying to recruit than they do necessarily like with their own team. And he like there's nobody that is like more dialed into what's going on with each and every player, their families, like all of that than Coach Harbaugh is. Like super family oriented. Like you got there's like our players' parents are around the building and at practices and stuff all the time. Like he's super family oriented. Um, it's just and the environment that he's kind of cultivated with this current staff and this current locker room is I, the best that I think any of us here have been around.
Well, you must think highly of him and vice versa, because I know in 2015 you started as an intern there, right?
Yep.
That was your first like foot in the door. Which,
Yep.
by the way, how did you get in? Right? Like
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a million people that want to get in, and how did you get your foot in the door
Yeah.
back in 2015?
It took a while. I mean, it really did. And back then, the there's almost every college football program now has like big, student interns, student support staffs that come in. At the time, they really didn't. They would hire, 1 to 2 interns a year, uh, at the football program. And so, I like applied for it as a freshman, sophomore, junior, like didn't get it, like tried to stay in contact with people as best
Did you
I
get any
could.
calls like, "Hey, no,"
Yeah,
or like, "Try
like
next
I
year,"
mean, like
or
just like yeah, like really like just emails. Like I never even got like an interview until senior year, and um, so senior year got the interview, went through the interview, like
did they
left.
know? Did they know you like tried the years
They
before? They're
yeah, like yeah, and but I also like I wasn't the only one either. Like it's obviously like a desirable,
yeah.
you know, position to be in. Um, but
So you got the call
had
for the
they
interview.
had yeah, got the call for the interview, went in. This was like during the fall, like towards the end of the season, and
Your senior
left.
year?
And senior year,
So
yeah.
you
So
got
I
half a
left.
semester left.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And so I like went in. I'm like, man, I crushed the interview. I felt like really good about it. And then like a week later, Brady Hoke got fired, and that whole staff pretty much like went into limbo. And so they like pressed the pause button on it. They're like, yeah, we can't hire any interns. So I had to like wait. They're like, and then they told me they're like, yeah, we wanted to hire you, but we can't do it right now. We don't know if we're going to be here. So I had to like wait the entire month of December, like see what was going to happen, how, every like coaching candidate's name that came out. I'm like, oh, do I know anybody connected to this guy? Like, and they hired Coach Harbaugh.
Were the
He
people that you
gets
were talking to, did they like whoever you were conversing with about this internship when Coach Harbaugh got hired, were they gone too, or like were did you still have that
so
point of
so
contact?
so there was like he got hired like end of December and got back to like campus the next week, and there was like two guys that were kind of like my main points of contact, and I remember like I actually texted James Ross, who was
Yeah,
still like playing there
yeah,
at the
St. Mary's
time,
guy.
like, hey, are either of these guys still around? And he's like, yeah, I think I saw, this guy today. I haven't seen the other guy. So I reached out. He ended up being there for like only really that month of January to help
Real
with
quick,
like the
shout out
transition.
to real quick shout out James Ross, who's also in Houston. Just got
Yeah,
hired
that's
there. But
right.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
got hired. Just got hired at Houston. Left Tulane.
But
And at
anyways,
Houston
another
now.
St. Mary's guy. So
That's
so
right.
you still have a point of reference. You reach out to the guy. He's still in the
Yeah,
building, and then what happened?
yeah. So he emails me. He's like, "Hey, come by um, on this day. Let's see if there's something we can do." So I go in. He's like, "Yeah, we got all these coaches are starting. Um, if you want to help, we can get you started at like 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week, and just like really, you're probably going to be like unpacking boxes and like getting their offices organized while they're on the road recruiting." I'm like, dude, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good, right? Like, and so he's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna run it by coach. Uh, we'll see.
Can you say who this was? That
Yeah, his
yeah.
name was Justin Dickens, who was
Okay.
he was the ops director at the
Okay.
time for them, and uh, so I'm like walking out of the building. Coach Harbaugh is coming in. It was like his first day on the road recruiting, and he had been like driving around the state. And you know, another St. Mary's shout out. He had stopped by St. Mary's, and GP had told told him that I was trying to get foot in the
That's
door,
like the
and
hand of God, the
yeah,
golden.
no doubt, man. And so like when I introduced myself, he's like, I heard your name somewhere today. Where would I have, where would I have heard that? And yeah, so 10, 15 hour a week schedule. I think I did like 40 the first week, probably like
Was it paid,
60
unpaid? Because most internships are
unpaid.
unpaid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unpaid. Yeah,
yeah.
unpaid. Um, 68. I mean, and probably since like the beginning of February 2015, it's been like 80 to 100 hour weeks ever since. And like,
So
just
they'd
like,
say like 10, 15 hours, and then you just like post up and just wait
you
for
just
somebody
don't
to give you
leave.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, because like, you like realize like the goal was always like get a foot in the door. And then once that happened, it's like, all right, now like I want to stay here as long as I can. And, um, there's no other like program, like staff that I would want to like learn from in my first job in college football than Michigan and the staff that Coach Harbaugh had put together. And so it was like one of those things you realize, hey, like I leave, the work doesn't stop. And so a lot of times the most growth and value, like the value you can add and the most growth that you can get happens between like 8 p.m. and 1 in the morning in a football office, because once you just start proving that you can do jobs, like it doesn't matter what it is. That's like the biggest thing is like everybody wants to come in and be like, oh, like these coaches care how much I know about football. Like they don't. Like you don't know more football than them. Like they need to know that like if they ask you something that they can trust you to do it.
You're
And
competent.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like can like handle tasks. And so like eventually, like them asking you to put stuff in binders or print board tags, like if you just take that job for what it is, it it's very easy to just feel like you're, not making any progress. But like if you really try to like absorb every piece of information that you're presented with, like, hey, you might be asked, hey, cut these board tags out, but like that's the recruiting board. And so now like you're in this, in the staff room, like putting this recruiting board together, and like know where we stand with guys, because like know where guys are from, like know the background, because then, you know, you can, when that kid is on campus, like you have a frame of reference, you have some awareness as to like who he is. And that
It,
was like one.
I was saying,
Yeah.
if I know anything about you, because I coached you at St. Mary's, taught you at St. Mary's, I'd imagine those board tags were freaking perfect. I mean,
I mean, yeah,
I bet you walk in
I,
the
I'll
recruiting
say
board
this.
with the
I'll
board
say this.
tags, and you're like,
I'll say this. The data was perfect. Not the best with the paper cutter by any means. So I would there'd be a lot of times, you'd hit it with the paper cutter, and then you're trimming them like a brisket, trying to make them absolutely perfect.
do you remember the most menial like thing that you did, but you're like, this is my job, like this is like the
So
worst,
the
not
first
worst thing you had to do, but the most menial.
Well, like the first like real job that somebody had me do, was our special teams coordinator that year, John Baxter, who, like, longtime coaching veteran, great guy, like very 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 smart football coach, like huge like educational background, like he was big on, helping, play a role as far as like kids, academics and stuff like that. Um, he had like all these like drill PowerPoints from USC, and all like simply like just needed them converted to maize and blue. Like just like all the stuff needed to be converted to Michigan colors. Like
Okay.
all of his PowerPoints. And so like that was like the first task that like somebody had me do. And then like eventually, I'd go help him, because he's watching practice film, doesn't know like the roster numbers yet, like who's who. So he's trying to like grade tape, and he's like, who's 24, who's like 35, like all this stuff. And so he would just say the number, and like I had to like know the know the
Yeah.
guy, and but that's it. It's like ultimately like you just like make yourself available, you make yourself valuable. And I think like,
It's always the special teams guys too, because there's always like they
yeah,
always need that little bit of extra, like special
there's
teams
no
is out.
doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And I think like for people that are like starting off, get good at things that people don't like doing. Like identify what those things are and get really good at it, because that creates value for you, like within the organization, because the thought of losing you and them having to pick that responsibility back up, right? Like it, like as like dumb as that sounds, like it really like works. And so like if somebody asks you to like be the board tag, like nobody likes cutting board tags. Like it's just horrible. Like it's like you have to like stay precise with it, but it's like there's just so many of them. And but like if you get good at it, and you like, and they know, like the staff knows, hey, I can walk into the staff room and know that that recruiting board is going to be accurate every day when I walk in there, because so and so who is in charge of the board tags tracks it like a hawk, and it's going to be 100% accurate. Like eventually, then they'll go, what else can this guy be great at? Hey, maybe he can take notes for us while we're watching film because I would rather just sit and work the clicker than write my evals down. And so then like that was like kind of another step of like, hey, like going and you're actually now like now you're sitting in there watching film with coaches, hearing their evaluations on kids, where if you want to look at it, glass half empty, oh, I'm just writing stuff that
Just
somebody else is
transcribing what
saying.
he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you're like getting a master class in scouting and evaluation, like being around these incredible football minds that, you know, like how fortunate are you to even like be in that room and hear what they have to say, hear what's going on. And so like for me it's like that was like my first kind of step into being like able to progress into like an evaluation role was just being around coaches. And like there's times where I would watch somebody like as the tape's going and I'm like, man, I don't think this guy's very good. And the coach would like think higher of him than I did. And then you listen, you're like, and like nobody's 100%, right? So, but then you like listen to the things that they're saying and like, you're like, oh, okay, I see that now. And, uh, everything, hey, he ended up being right, or hey, I ended up being right. But, that's like the biggest thing is, nobody shoots 100%, evaluation wise. I mean, usually when you look at a signing class, if 50% of the kids that you sign, like in a high school class, like if you can get back to back years where 50% of the kids that you signed are in your two deep, you usually are like finding yourself in like a championship window for your level. Like whatever, whether, if that's D2, FCS, the MAC, like Big Ten, like wherever, like if you look back on a 25 person signing class and 10 to 15 of them are contributing for you, you usually are like competing for championships, which is like a crazy thing to think about, like with how much everybody works at it, that shooting 50% is like really like putting you into like a top tier in the industry.
Well, you bring up the Mac. And there's a couple of things I think of. I think about the Mac where I talk about like your first, like it sounds like, so I know you went from intern to operation assistant to recruiting assistant. So that's all like you're climbing the ladder, but it's still
Yep.
not you're not running the show. You're not running
No
the
doubt.
department yet.
No
So
doubt.
then, you're talking about all these jobs that you were doing for the special teams coordinator, and it fired back memories of me. I did what you did for Coach Jim McElwain, who was
Yep.
at Michigan when you were there. So you obviously had to have done something to impress him or provide value to him, because essentially, do you credit him for giving you? So he made you director of player personnel at CMU.
So he didn't hire me at CMU
He didn't.
actually. So no, so
Who hired you at
he
CMU?
John Bonamego
Okay, I didn't know that.
hired
Oh, then
me.
that's my
Yep.
mistake.
So he was there. He was there. Coach Bono was there 2017, 2018,
How did you know
and
him?
I didn't. That was the crazy thing was like he came. The CMU staff came and worked our quarterback camp in the summer of 17. Had this job open, and so Coach Bono knows the Harbaugh family really well because he was a long time NFL special teams coordinator. Coach Harbaugh's brother John, that was how he got his start, was as a special teams coordinator in the NFL, and so they've known each other and like the family for a long time, and so Bono comes in before the camp even starts, is sitting just visiting with coach. He's like, hey, I got this job open. Do you have any young guys that, might be interested in coming to be the personnel director for us? And coach gave him my name.
And real quick, can you explain director of player personnel? What does that mean? What would
Yeah,
you?
it's some. I mean, some schools call it personnel, like some schools call it recruiting. Like it's all overseeing the recruiting, roster management, all of that stuff. But the thing you like realize is like eventually like the biggest change becomes like the questions. You don't have anywhere else to go with the questions. Like
What
you're
do you
kind of
mean?
like you're like the end of the line. You know, you can't like you don't get to like, oh, let me go. Yeah, that no, that's not in my wheelhouse. Let me go ask this guy. It's like no, that
You
you're the
are the
guy.
guy.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, you're the guy. So you gotta have the answers here. But yeah, so Coach Bono got my name from Coach Harbaugh. He
Did
came
did
up
you
and
meet him at the
introduced
quarterback
himself.
camp or no? Did you meet him
Yeah,
at?
so yeah,
Okay.
he came up, introduced himself. We talked there for like an hour that day, um, and you know, told me
Were you
about the
aware?
job.
Okay, so
I
you're
didn't
aware
know
of.
that.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know the job was. I didn't know there was a job like anything. And like to be honest, like I wasn't. I didn't think I was 23 at the time. Like I didn't think I was like in that conversation yet. To be honest with you, um, and but it was like an awesome conversation. He is like an incredible guy. Great coach, great person. Like loves his players, loves the staff. Like heard like nothing but great stuff about him from the people at U of M that knew him. And I went up like the following week um, to like visit up there with the staff, and then he like kind of offered me the job. Like you know how like jobs in college football work, where it's like not even posted. Like we're talking about you know, hey, when do you know when can you be here? I'm like, do I have it? Like, do I have the job actually? So, you know, moved up to Mount Pleasant. You know, like
was that
he told me
what
you
kind
had it.
what kind of
Yeah,
decision was like that for you? Because I know how you feel about Michigan, and then to
yeah, and
leave. Yeah.
yeah, it was difficult because um, you know, I felt like I was getting to a point at U of M where it was like I'm kind of, you know, I feel like I've climbed up to a point now where, you know, I have a good level of involvement, but, you know, talking to some of the coaches around there and just other people that I had met along the way, you know, they all encouraged me. They're like, "Hey, this is going to be great for you, great for your growth. Um, Michigan's not going anywhere, and you can, you know, when the time's right, you'll be back. And,
Hmm.
you know, but you need to go get this experience, go, you know, run your own show and do that. And so, you know, kind of took the took the step out of the comfort zone a little bit and you know, really like knew nobody on their staff, like you know, didn't have any ties to like the school or the area.
And
And
now
my
you're the
first,
guy. You're like the
my,
recruiting guy. You're walking
yeah,
in.
and like you're walking in. My first day was the first day of training camp, so it was like you know I'm standing out at practice with a roster like a
Who are these
loser,
guys?
like I don't even know these players, like this is insane. And you know it was just so cool though because like Coach Bono was like he was so supportive of me and helping me to grow in that role as I was first starting off. It was a lot different though. Like it's a different level of football. Different head coaches operate different ways, and so just learning a new organization was a challenge, right? And hey, what are the most important things to this head coach and to this coaching staff as opposed to where I was leaving? But also, like, what stuff can I be bringing with me that could help this place? Um, but you also don't want to come in and be the young know-it-all. Like, oh, I was at Michigan, guys. Like, you know,
Like, all right,
so
buddy,
like
it's your first job. Take it easy.
right, no doubt. Like you can't do that. And so I think I think that was like the biggest thing for me was coming in and just hey, be the same person, you know, humble, like recruiting, like operations. it's like a service industry. Like you're there to take work and take stress off of the coaches, and to be there to provide like great experience to the recruits and the families that visit. And
Was
so
there any
there's a
culture shock for you from a it just is what it is, from the MAC to the Big Ten? I mean, your resources can't even be anywhere near the same.
yeah, no, it's not in the same ballpark.
S-
Um,
Were there
it's
things you would
so
do to try to like bridge the gap, or what were some like were there any culture shock things like, oh, like we don't have this. Okay, let me figure out a different way.
yeah, I would say like the first realization was when we're doing letters. Um, I put, just like, hey, two letters for the day in the staff room when they're meeting. Coaches look on the board and they write their letters for who we're writing that day. I put like cards out. Found out where all like the mailing stuff was. Put cards out, and after they turn them all in after the meeting, somebody said, "Hey, we do postcards. We don't do cards because postcards are 19 cents cheaper to mail." I'm like, "Wait, what? Is that something we're concerned about?" It's like, "Yes, yes, we are." I was like, "Oh, okay, got it." So that's like, I mean, that was one that it's early on. You're like, "Oh, okay, it's like that." Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, got it. But I had so much. I grew so much, and had so much fun up there, with Coach Bono. And then when he got let go, Coach McElwain got hired. He was at Michigan in that 18 season, and so thankfully I had people in my corner down there, kind of telling them, hey, when you get up there, like there's a recruiting guy, give him a chance. Don't just hit him with the swift axe of justice right
What
off the bat.
was there during that time period when the coach was like, "Oh, are you like, all right?"
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think you're done. Like hadn't
So
gone through it really
so
before.
so Coach Matt gets hired. Coach McElwain gets hired. Like, are you texting him? Because you were around him. Like you've seen what because you were in the building when he was in the building at Michigan, right?
No,
You weren't,
no, I didn't know him. No, I didn't know him. So
but
he was there in 2018, and
you were there.
I had just left the year prior.
I
So
didn't. So you didn't even know Mac.
no, no, didn't know him at all. And what was crazy was he got hired. I was back in Ann Arbor, when he got hired, for my godson's baptism. And I'm up there, kid's getting his head dunked. I'm like holding a candle, and my phone's just blowing up in my pocket. I know already what it is. I don't know who got hired, but know obviously what's going on. Finish, the baptism, get in my car, haul it back to Mount Pleasant, get there like 45 seconds before the first staff meeting. It was like the most stressful
Oh, dude,
day.
your heart
It
like
was it was the
walking into
most
those
stressful
staff
day.
meetings. Oh,
It was the most stressful day of my life. It's not even close. And
had you
then
been
we're
hired, or you didn't know yet? Had you?
oh no, no clue.
Okay, okay.
And so like the whole old staff is still kind of there and around. Um,
Side note: how
which
awkward is that? Like, how is
which
it?
is yeah, it's pretty awkward.
So
and
you
and
have
I
a
think
brand new head coach and all the assistant coaches and previous that were hired by the previous
previous
coach
staff. Yep,
sitting in one
yep.
room. What is that? I mean, can you
Yeah, so
share
that
what
was,
that conversation's like? Like, I'm keeping you and you,
I
or like,
think at the first thing was, he was, because there's like two ways to go about it. Like, I guess there's more than two, but if a coach is let go, a lot of times they'll tell the other coaches, "Hey, you're gone unless somebody calls you to bring you back." And so then the office is kind of like a ghost town. Uh, in our case, the coach got let go. Everybody was told, keep working. you know,
Does that come from the
fin-
old head coach or from the new head
that
coach?
was from the AD and
Oh,
like
okay.
administration and stuff like that. So
Okay.
like we kept going, um, and so Mac, you know, he was pretty blunt in the first meeting of, hey, you know, I hate to like have to be the one to come in and fire people, but there's going to be a good portion of you that aren't in here moving forward, and it's nothing against you. It's nothing personal. It's just how the business goes. And so, you know, we go through that meeting. We kind of talked through the roster a little bit, and then he had this dinner at the president's house. He wanted to make recruiting calls at. So I'm at this dinner with him and like every important person at the university. I have no business being at this thing at all. Uh, and we finish, and he's like, "Hey, do you mind? Let's go back to the office to finish these calls. You mind driving me?" And so we're walking out to my car, and it like dawns on me that like 3 days ago I had gotten like somebody backed into my car at the gas station. So like the passenger door didn't. It was like it was opening at about like 40%, and I'm just, you know, I'm trying to explain to like, hey coach, you know, the door isn't going to open all the way. And so and you know, and now like, you know, we look, me and Mac like laugh about it now like all the time. And he, you know, so he goes to me and he's like, well, what do you want me to do, sit in the back seat? And I was like, no, I'm like, it's just not going to open all the way. So you're going to have to, you know, kind of climb in a little bit. And
Great first impression.
yeah, great first impression. So we go to the, you know, we go to the building, we finish the calls, and the they didn't have they had his like dealer car ready to go, but the keys were in the AD's office, and he's not there obviously. So then we had to like climb back into the car for me to take him to the hotel. And I remember like the night ended at like 1:30, and I like finished packing my desk. I'm like, there's no way this guy is keeping me around. Like absolutely zero chance. But had a big recruiting weekend that weekend, which kind of served as my tryout, so to speak, and you know
Did you feel
went
like
real.
that, or did he say that to you?
No, I kind of, he didn't say it outright,
Yeah.
but I felt it, you
Yeah.
know, and went through. I remember like we had like a Thursday meeting to cover the weekend. I went like a little bit over 2 hours straight, just like running through every single detail of the visit, the itinerary, everything. And I could tell at the end of that meeting, I was like, okay, I think I got a chance.
He's like,
Like I think
Max, like, I
like
like this guy. This guy's a
Mac,
guy.
Mac, Mac. Like we finished, Mac was like, yeah, that was really good. Like that was really good. So we went through the weekend, and then everyone in the building had a conversation about like whether they were being kept or not. And like the next week, like I still hadn't had that conversation yet. And
Like,
he's,
our new coach is
you know,
coming in at this point, like
oh yeah,
from
there's
Colorado State. Yeah.
new people coming in, and so then like Wednesday the following week, I want to say, calls me into his office, and he's like, "Hey, you know, I'm sure you probably can tell I'm not very good at this stuff, and
Were you
I'm
like, you think you're
sorry."
getting fired?
And I'm sorry. He's like, "I'm sorry we didn't have this conversation sooner." I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me, man!" Like, all right, like you know, whatever. Like it is what it is. And he's like, "Yeah, you got a job here if you want it." And I was like, "Yeah, I want it." He goes, "All right, cool, get back to work." And so that was it. And it you know it kicked off like three like really great seasons with him, and it felt it was all the experience that he had at all the places he's been. and he's seen football at every level. Um, Learned so much from him just about like not skipping little details, and like every little thing plays a role, whether it's like with the team, with the recruiting piece, like whatever. Um, the little details are the things that are going to make the biggest difference um, when it comes to you know the locker room being in a good place, your recruits wanting to come to your school, and having just kind of that internal feeling of wanting to be a part of that, right?
Yeah, and I'm a huge Coach McElwain fan. I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time with him, and one of the things that you and I do whenever I see you, I'm like, hey, you got to give me an old Coach Mac, as just because he has such a unique way of talking and joking. But so you worked for him up until you worked at Central up until December of 21 ish. Is that correct?
Yep. Yep.
And then
Yep.
so you get a call, or what? Like what happens for you
Yeah.
to come
Out of
back
the
to Michigan?
blue, completely out of the blue. Michigan had just won. They had just won the Big Ten against Iowa um, on that Saturday, and then Monday, I get a call from uh, Bay Area number that I didn't have. Answer the phone, and it was Coach Harbaugh, and just like just completely like, whoa, okay, hey, and congratulated him, all that, and he goes, hey, you want to come back to Michigan? I go, yeah. He's like, yeah, we got a director job opened up, and it's yours if you want it. I go, yeah, I'm in. He goes, awesome, you're back, and that was it. Like that was the end of the interview.
No
Like that was,
details, like
I mean, zero. Didn't
yeah.
know title, pay, like nothing. Like, and
Were you able to like
and
Google and like see any movement? Like, okay, he's talking about this position or
no,
what?
no, didn't know. Yeah, no clue. And so he had reached out to Coach Mack ahead of that, which I appreciated. And um, the funny thing though was he's like, hey, can you? It was late in the afternoon on Monday, and he's like, hey, can you be here tomorrow? I was like, oh, I got Coach, I got some loose ends to tie up here still, and um, I think I would think like Wednesday would probably be like the absolute earliest that I could be there.
Because you still got to talk to
Um,
Coach Mack and like you can't
yeah,
just
like
drop a
I mean,
bomb on
like
him.
we're like a week out from signing day. We had another official visit weekend, and so I called Mac. He already knew. Was
Did he answer
like,
and like give you the business, or did like
no, he was
okay,
great. Like
yeah,
he was great. Congratulations, you earned it. Like everything was awesome. And he asked, so how long do I have you for? When does he want you there? And I told him, I'm like, he asked if I could be there tomorrow, and there's just like a pause, and Matt goes, well, who the hell's gonna run the recruiting weekend? And I go, yeah, I'm not sure if he needs me. I can get everybody ready to go. And he like cuts me off. He goes, hang on, I gotta call him. So he hangs up, calls Coach Harbaugh. Coach Harbaugh calls me, and like, hey, Coach Matt called, negotiated terms of your release. So you'll
so
report here next Monday after you finish the weekend. He said you guys really don't have much of a recruiting department there. Is that true? I go, yeah, no, we got me and like one other guy and a couple interns. That's about it. He goes, yeah, no, finish the weekend. That'll be good. And we'll see you Monday. And so that was it. And again, like I mean, no job posting, no
yeah.
anything. Just show up and back in Ann Arbor, and you know get back to work. But
So
yeah, like we got.
you finished that recruiting weekend, and then like when you're saying bye to Coach Mack, like what do you feel that you took from working with him and the coach previously and your time at Central, what do you think that you got from that experience that when you came back to Michigan that you didn't have when you left?
Um, I mean, obviously, it's a different level of football, but I think just the confidence in the role, and not in like an arrogant way of, oh, I've got all the answers, but just being able to be confident in decision making, whether it's right or wrong, and just being decisive, when you decide, knowing when to ask for opinions, knowing when to just make a decision and go with it. And here's the plan. This is what we're doing. And if we need to tweak it afterwards, we can. But we're gonna go, whether that's with visits or how we're watching film week to week or communication plans, like whatever that is. Just the confidence that they put in me, and the trust that both of them gave me in my role, where neither of them really knew me at all, was so impactful to me, and just knowing, like, I talk to both of them pretty regularly, still to this day. And actually Coach Mack's son Jared is on Washington's recruiting staff, so
Oh, I didn't.
hoping hoping to bump
Yeah.
into him this weekend at some point. So,
Yeah, he used to be a little
uh,
guy running around the state, Michigan State building back in
yep,
the day.
yep,
So, okay,
yep. So
so you
yeah,
come
so
back to
Jared.
Michigan. You get there first day. Are there people there that in recruiting or operations that like, oh, here's Albert, but it's different Albert. It's like did you have to work that at all?
Yeah, so
You know what I mean? It's like you left as
the
like
yeah,
you're like
yeah. It's
intern
like you're.
associate.
This isn't the intern anymore. Yeah. But it, I think a little bit, but like also, I feel like a big reason that I've been able to get to this point in my career is just keeping the mindset that no job is too big or too small. And at the end of the day, whatever the title on the door of the office says, I'm not going to let that impact how I treat my work, treat the people around me. Um, and everything that I've done up to this point has put me in this position, and there's no need to necessarily deviate from that, and just keep staying true to who I am, and being myself, uh, throughout this role. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able, regardless of whatever logo you got on, you want to be able to know that you're doing your job, and treating people, with respect, and giving the job the respect that it deserves.
So you come back, and we're gonna fast forward to present day. I We only got a little bit more time here, but there's a
Yeah,
few things I wanted to hit on real quick that are big buzzwords, but you're in it. You're on the ground. You're dealing with it. One of the things is NIL. That's just
yeah,
recently just trickled down now to high school. How is that integrate into what you do, and how much do you touch it on a daily basis?
yeah. So there's different rules, and we don't need to get into all the rules
Yeah.
of like how much involvement and stuff we can have, uh, with NIL, but it's a conversation, with everyone. The Coach Harbaugh's kind of mantra with it, and he was one of the earliest advocates for student athletes getting paid, or compensated, to some extent, whether it was NIL. He's been huge on revenue sharing. Should have, a component, a percentage that's going to the student athlete, which looks like that is a direction that the NCAA is actually headed, probably within the next, I would say as soon as 2, as late as 5 years, that there's already, there's been in the past few months some conversations being had and some committees being formed to talk about how revenue sharing would work. So, but the biggest thing is we want it to be transformational, not transactional. We don't want, NIL opportunities.
What inducements? So it's like, hey, come here. Here's your NIL deal. Yeah. Versus like they come to you and be like, hey, play a snap. Yeah. Is that on your plate? Is that on your plate, or you interface with it? Is that Wangler's group? I'm at. Yeah. Meaning what? Meaning meaning like you can send two kids to a golf outing, they get paid through Champion Circle, and then maybe they interface with the brand there. Got it. So like how would a kid on Michigan, how would they get an NIL deal? And then you have no like if a lead or an offer or sponsorship goes right to the kid, you have no you can't. Yeah. Sounds like the wild wild. Yeah. Have you seen that? How have you seen that impact the locker room, or does it not? Or like are like the guys aware of that? Why is he driving this? Yeah, yeah. No, it's an interesting. I mean, between the portal and NIL, I mean, your world is it's like constantly evolving and changing. uh, and other thing I want to talk about it, and I understand you can't get too much into it, but I just like when there is some controversy around the team this season, and one of the things like I saw an ESPN article had your name in it, and like when that happens to you, because it's people are always in the outside saying like this and that and this, but when it happens to someone like you and your name's in this article, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, like how do you deal with that? Like you just turn the phone off and just go about your work. How did you deal with it all when all that stuff came up? Yeah. It's a lot of noise. It's noise. Yeah. So, so on the eve of the national championship game, um, what are what are you trying to do here in these next couple of days, and what are you trying to hold on to as Albert Karschnia, like memories? Like, are you taking a moment and like from like a job perspective, what are you doing? And then as like a person, like remembering this, what are you trying to? I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can you got a prediction? A score prediction? um, n- no, thank you so much for coming on and taking this time, man. It was great to catch up and you know, wishing you the best in the game and you know, so excited for you and it's awesome for you to share your story and all of the hard work and everything you've done to get to this point. So thanks so much for coming on and I'll be rooting for you on in the game.